What if I told you that Abraham was one of the wealthiest men in ancient history? We're not talking about being comfortable or well off. We're talking about mind-blowing, incomprehensible wealth that would make today's billionaires look modest. Most people know Abraham as the father of faith, the man who talked with God. But what they don't tell you in Sunday school is that this man controlled vast empires of livestock, owned armies of servants, and possessed treasures of gold and silver that kings would envy. Today, you're about to uncover the hidden truth about Abraham's fortune, secrets that have been buried for millennia, facts that will completely change how you see this biblical giant. And here's what's crazy. The way Abraham built and managed his wealth reveals ancient principles that are still creating millionaires today. But the most shocking revelation is not what you think made him rich. It's what he was willing to give up that unlocked, unlimited abundance. Stay locked in, because I'm about to blow your mind with truths that 99% of people have never heard before. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at wealth the same way again. Let me paint you a picture of who Abraham really was, because everything you think you know is just scratching the surface. We're talking about a man who lived around 2000 BC, in a time when most people barely survived day to day, when entire families could be wiped out by a single bad harvest. While civilizations rose and fell based on their ability to simply find enough food, Abraham was quietly building what could only be described as a financial empire that spanned multiple nations and influenced entire regions. This wasn't just some lucky guy who inherited daddy's money or stumbled into wealth by accident. No, Abraham started from absolutely nothing in Ur of the Chaldeans, a nobody from a pagan family, and systematically built such massive wealth that when he decided to move, entire kingdoms felt the economic ripple effects. We're talking about a man so rich that kings didn't just respect him, they feared his economic power. Picture this. When Abraham traveled, he didn't pack a suitcase. He moved with massive caravans that stretched for miles, carrying livestock, servants, gold, silver, and resources that would make modern corporations jealous. His entourage was so large, it looked more like a nation migrating than one man taking a trip. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. And this is what they never taught you in Sunday school. Abraham's wealth wasn't some magical divine lottery ticket. It wasn't just God randomly dropping money from heaven. There was a sophisticated system, a calculated method, a secret formula that Abraham discovered, perfected, and executed with ruthless precision. And the crazy part? Most religious teachers completely miss this revolutionary truth because they're so focused on the spiritual miracles that they totally ignore the practical genius of what Abraham actually did in the real world. They see the blessing, but miss the strategy. They focus on the faith, but overlook the business brilliance. The Abraham you think you know, the simple shepherd following God's voice. That's just the Sunday school version. The real Abraham was a master strategist, a brilliant dealmaker, an economic powerhouse, and yes, absolutely loaded with riches that would make today's wealthiest individuals look like they're playing with pocket change. All right, let's talk numbers. Because when the Bible describes Abraham's wealth, it doesn't use gentle language. Genesis 13:2 literally says Abraham was extremely rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. But that word extremely in the original Hebrew, it means abundantly, exceedingly, overwhelmingly wealthy. We're not talking about comfortable. We're talking about obscenely rich. Let me put this in perspective for you. Archaeological evidence suggests that Abraham controlled herds numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Think about that for a second. Hundreds of thousands of sheep, goats, cattle, camels, and donkeys. In today's economy, we're talking about assets worth hundreds of millions of dollars, possibly billions, but it gets crazier. The Bible mentions that Abraham had 318 trained men born in his household. not hired workers, not temporary help, men born and raised in his service. Military historians tell us that for every trained warrior, you need at least 10 support staff. That means Abraham's household included over 3,000 people. This man was running what was essentially a private corporation with its own military division. And we haven't even talked about the precious metals yet. When the text says he was rich in silver and gold, we're not talking about jewelry or coins. We're talking about raw wealth, tradable commodities, liquid assets that could buy entire cities. Some scholars estimate that Abraham's portable wealth alone, just his gold and silver, would be worth over $100 million in today's currency. To put this in ancient context, most kings of that era would have been jealous of Abraham's resources. This man had more liquid assets than entire nations, more livestock than some kingdoms possessed, and more military power than many rulers could command. Now here's where it gets really interesting. How exactly did Abraham build this empire? Because understanding his wealth sources reveals the hidden strategies that most people completely miss. First, let's talk about his core business model: strategic livestock management. Abraham wasn't just a shepherd throwing sheep in a field and hoping for the best. This man understood something that modern ranchers are still learning: livestock multiplication is the fastest way to build exponential wealth in an agricultural economy. One sheep becomes two, two become four, four become eight. Within a decade, you're not talking about addition. You're talking about exponential multiplication. But here's the genius part Abraham figured out: diversification. He didn't just focus on one type of animal. He had sheep for wool and meat, goats for milk and leather, cattle for labor and food, camels for transportation and trade, donkeys for carrying cargo. Each species served multiple purposes and created multiple revenue streams. This man understood portfolio diversification 4,000 years before Wall Street figured it out. Then there's the location strategy that blows my mind. Abraham positioned himself along the most profitable trade routes of the ancient world: the highways connecting Mesopotamia to Egypt, the crossroads where African gold met Asian spices, where European goods met Middle Eastern crafts. Every caravan that passed through had to deal with Abraham. He controlled water sources, grazing lands, and safe passage. Think of him as the ancient equivalent of owning toll roads on every major highway. But wait, it gets better. The Bible records something fascinating. Foreign rulers kept giving Abraham massive gifts. Pharaoh loaded him down with livestock, servants, and precious metals. King Abimelech gave him sheep, cattle, servants, and land. These weren't small tokens. These were nation-level wealth transfers. Why? Because Abraham had something these kings desperately needed: political stability and economic influence. And here's what most people miss: Abraham was a master negotiator who understood leverage. When he rescued Lot and defeated 4 kings, he didn't just win a battle. He established himself as a military power that other rulers had to respect and appease. His wealth wasn't just economic, it was strategic, political, and military. The man had cracked the code on something that creates generational wealth. He built systems that generated money whether he was actively working or not. His herds multiplied while he slept. His trade relationships generated profit while he prayed. His political alliances created opportunities while he traveled. This wasn't luck. This wasn't just divine blessing falling from the sky. This was a sophisticated business empire built on principles that would make Harvard Business School professors take notes. Now we're getting to the part that will absolutely blow your mind. Because Abraham had a secret strategy that created unlimited wealth. And it's so counterintuitive that most people would think he was crazy. Here's what Abraham understood that nobody talks about. True wealth isn't about hoarding resources. It's about controlling the flow of resources. while other rich men of his time built walls around their treasures and hired guards to protect their gold. Abraham did something completely different. He weaponized generosity. Let me explain what I mean. When Abraham tithed to Melchizedek, giving away 10% of everything he had just captured in battle, people thought he was insane. You just won the biggest military victory of your life. You just captured the wealth of 4 kingdoms, and you're giving it away? But Abraham understood something profound. When you give from a position of strength, you don't lose power. You multiply it. Here's the psychological genius of what happened. Every person who witnessed Abraham's generosity walked away thinking the same thing. This man has so much wealth that he can afford to give away fortunes without even thinking about it. That single act of generosity did more to establish his reputation for unlimited resources than any amount of showing off could have achieved. But it gets deeper. Abraham understood delegation in ways that would make modern CEOs jealous. Remember those 318 trained men? Abraham didn't micromanage them. He created systems where his people could make decisions, manage resources, and expand his influence without him having to be everywhere at once. He built what business experts today call passive income streams, wealth that generates itself. And here's where his strategy gets absolutely brilliant. Abraham used his wealth to buy something more valuable than gold or livestock. He bought relationships. Every gift he gave, every generous act, every strategic alliance, it wasn't charity. It was investment in human capital. He was building a network of people who owed him favors, who respected his power, who would open doors for him across multiple nations. Don't think about this. When famine hit the land, Abraham didn't panic like everyone else. Why? Because he had built relationships in Egypt and Gerar in multiple regions. His wealth wasn't just money. It was access, influence, and options. While other people were trapped by circumstances, Abraham could pick up his entire operation and move to where the opportunities were. But here's the most mind-blowing part of his strategy. Abraham realized that scarcity mindset destroys wealth, while abundance mindset creates it. Every decision he made came from a place of, there's more than enough, rather than, I need to protect what I have. And paradoxically, this mindset of abundance actually created more abundance. When the king of Sodom offered him all the spoils of war, Abraham's response revealed his secret. I don't want anything that belongs to you, so you can never say you made me rich. Abraham understood that real wealth is independent wealth. The moment you become dependent on someone else's resources, you've actually become poor, even if you have money. This man had figured out the ultimate wealth principle. The person who needs nothing has access to everything. Okay, now I'm about to reveal the secret that changes everything. The one truth about Abraham's wealth that will completely revolutionize how you think about money, success, and prosperity forever. Are you ready for this? Because what I'm about to tell you goes against everything our culture teaches about wealth building, everything Wall Street preaches, and everything most financial gurus will tell you. Here's the secret that Abraham discovered. The moment you become willing to lose everything, you gain access to unlimited everything. Let me say that again, because this is the key that unlocks infinite abundance. When you reach the point where you're genuinely prepared to walk away from all your wealth, that's when true wealth starts flowing to you effortlessly. Most people think Abraham's wealth came from his business genius, his strategic location, his political connections. And yes, those things mattered, but they were just the surface level. The real secret was psychological, spiritual, emotional. Abraham had completely detached his identity and security from his possessions. Think about this. Abraham was willing to leave everything in Ur and follow God to an unknown land. No GPS, no Google Maps, no guarantee of success. Most wealthy people can't even change cities without months of planning. And Abraham picked up a multi-million-dollar operation and moved to a place he'd never seen because he heard a voice. But it gets more extreme. When God asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, his only heir, the future of his entire legacy, the one person who would inherit this massive fortune, Abraham didn't hesitate. He didn't negotiate. He didn't ask for alternatives. He was literally prepared to destroy his own succession plan, to end his family line, to make his entire wealth meaningless. And here's what's absolutely mind-blowing. The moment Abraham raised the knife, fully committed to giving up everything that mattered to him, God stopped him and said, "Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." And what happened immediately after? God promised Abraham that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars and would possess the gates of their enemies. You see what happened there? The ultimate test wasn't about faith. It was about attachment. God wasn't testing whether Abraham loved him. God was testing whether Abraham was still controlled by fear of loss. And when Abraham proved he was completely free from the fear of losing anything, including the most precious thing in his life, unlimited abundance was released. This is the secret that separates truly wealthy people from everyone else. They're not afraid to lose what they have because they know they can always create more. They don't grip their possessions with white knuckles because they understand that clingy energy actually repels wealth. Abraham discovered the ultimate wealth principle that most people never learn. The person who can't lose everything will never truly have everything. Your attachment to your current level of wealth is actually the ceiling that prevents you from reaching the next level. When you're willing to risk it all, you gain access to it all. When you're prepared to lose everything, you become capable of receiving everything. That's the hidden truth about Abraham's fortune that few people understand. Now, before you think this is just ancient history that doesn't apply to your life, let me show you exactly how Abraham's wealth principles are creating millionaires and billionaires right now. Today, in our modern world. First principle: strategic. Generosity creates exponential returns. Look at every self-made billionaire, and you'll find the same pattern Abraham used. Bill Gates didn't become the world's richest man by hoarding every penny. He became legendary by giving away billions. Through his foundation, Warren Buffett pledged to give away 99% of his wealth, and somehow his net worth keeps growing. Elon Musk constantly reinvests his profits into new ventures, risking everything on projects that might fail. They understand what Abraham knew: money that flows outward creates space for more money to flow inward. But here's how you apply this practically, even if you're not a billionaire yet. Start with what Abraham called first fruits. Give away the first portion of any income increase before you get attached to it. Got a raise? Give away 10% before you adjust your lifestyle. Made money from a side hustle? Donate a portion before you spend it. This breaks the scarcity programming that keeps most people trapped in financial mediocrity. Second principle: build systems, not just income. Abraham didn't work harder to get richer. He worked smarter by creating systems that generated wealth automatically. In today's world, this means building passive income streams. Instead of just trading time for money, create assets that make money while you sleep. Real estate that generates rental income. Businesses that run without your daily involvement. Investment portfolios that compound over time. Online courses that sell 24/7. The goal is to build wealth engines, not just collect paychecks. Third principle: relationship capital beats financial capital. Abraham invested heavily in relationships because he understood that who you know determines what opportunities you access. In our networked economy, this is more true than ever. Your net worth will never exceed your network. Start building genuine relationships with people who are where you want to be. Provide value before asking for anything. Become known as someone who connects others and creates win-win situations. But here's the most important application, and this is where most people fail. You must develop what Abraham had, non-attachment to outcomes. The moment you become desperate for a particular result, you start making fear-based decisions that sabotage your success. Abraham could negotiate from strength because he was genuinely prepared to walk away from any deal. He could take calculated risks because he wasn't terrified of failure. Practically, this means having what I call FU money. Enough resources saved that you're not dependent on your current job, your current clients, or your current situation. When you're not desperate, you make better decisions. When you're not needy, people are more attracted to doing business with you. When you're not attached to specific outcomes, you're open to opportunities you never would have considered. And here's the psychological shift that changes everything. Stop thinking like someone who's trying to get rich and start thinking like someone who's already wealthy. Wealthy people don't hoard opportunities. They share them because they know there are unlimited opportunities. They don't operate from scarcity. They operate from abundance because they've trained their minds to see possibilities instead of limitations. Abraham's mindset wasn't, "I hope I can build wealth." His mindset was, "I'm a wealthy person who happens to be in a wealth-building phase." That identity shift changes how you show up, how you make decisions, and how others perceive and respond to you. The question isn't whether these principles work. They've been creating wealth for 4,000 years. The question is, are you willing to apply them even when they feel counterintuitive? Even when they require you to think differently than everyone around you? Here's the revelation that changes everything about Abraham's wealth. When the king of Sodom offered Abraham all the spoils of war, the combined treasure of 4 kingdoms, Abraham rejected it all. He said, "I will accept nothing from you, so you can never say you made me rich." Think about that. Abraham literally walked away from becoming the richest man on earth because he refused to compromise his independence. While everyone else would grab that deal, Abraham understood something crucial. Some money comes with invisible chains, but the ultimate revelation came with Isaac. When God asked Abraham to sacrifice his only son, this wasn't just about faith. It was about sacrificing his entire economic future. Isaac was his heir, the one who would inherit everything. Without Isaac, Abraham's massive fortune would die with him. Abraham didn't hesitate. He was prepared to destroy his own legacy because he had discovered the ultimate secret. True wealth isn't what you own. It's what doesn't own you. The moment Abraham proved he was willing to lose everything, unlimited abundance was released. God didn't just restore what Abraham was willing to sacrifice. He multiplied it beyond imagination. This is the hidden truth. Abraham's greatest wealth came not from what he gained, but from what he was willing to give up. The secret to unlimited abundance isn't holding on tighter. It's letting go completely. So here's what we just discovered about Abraham's hidden fortune and why it matters for your life right now. Abraham's wealth wasn't built on luck or divine lottery tickets. It was built on timeless principles, strategic generosity that multiplied resources, systematic wealth creation through passive income, and leveraging relationships for unlimited opportunities. But the real secret was psychological. Abraham became so free from the fear of loss that abundance flowed to him effortlessly. Every time Abraham was willing to give something up, leaving rejecting spoils of war, preparing to sacrifice Isaac, his wealth exploded to new levels. This wasn't coincidence. This was the law of abundance in action. Here's the truth that changes everything. Your financial ceiling isn't determined by your circumstances. It's determined by your attachment to what you have and your fear of what you might lose. Abraham discovered that real wealth is freedom from desperation, from fear, from the need to control outcomes. The hidden truth about Abraham's fortune? It was never about the money. It was about becoming someone who could handle unlimited abundance without being enslaved by it. So here's my challenge to you. If this video shifted your perspective on wealth, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. What was your biggest takeaway? Share this with someone who needs to hear these principles. And if you want more content revealing biblical secrets that can transform your finances, subscribe and ring that notification bell. Remember, Abraham went from nothing to nations. Your breakthrough might be one decision away from letting go of what's holding you back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.